Hey everyone, my name here on YouTube is Pollymacho. Nice to have you back here again, or if you're new, welcome. So I've got another recommendation for you. This time it's going to be focused on a manga that is really out there and might be just one of your new favorites if you give it a read. I'm sure you've seen the title of this video already, but if you haven't, today we're covering Dorohedoro. Of course, this is a big claim to make, but for the time we have together, I want to share what makes this manga so unique to me and might do so for you too. For those who have already read Dorohedoro and know all about the roller coaster I'm going to try to build up to, first of all, you have great taste, and I hope you dig this video talking about this series we both love. But for those new, you are about to be taken on a surreal and delightful fever dream. So grab a beverage of choice, use the bathroom, maybe eat some delicious gyoza if you've got some, and put logic aside as we dive in to Dorohedoro. The story of Dorohedoro takes place between two worlds, the magic user world and the whole. The magic user world is populated with sorcerers who can utilize magic, often called smoke. The more smoke you can produce, the more powerful you are in that society. There are always power struggles and crime families rising to the top through sheer will and vast amount of smoke. Being a sorcerer allows them to create a magic door that can transport them to the whole. It's a slum world populated with regular humans and unfortunate souls on which sorcerers test their magic, which often result in death or horrible mutations. Humans have no capacity for smoke and cannot travel to the magic user world, so they're pretty much at the whims of sorcerers. But not all are down for this level of treatment. Enter our sort of main character, Kaiman, a dude over 6 feet tall with the head of a lizard, a hatred for magic users, and an immunity to any magic, accompanied by a woman named Nikaido, a resident of Hole and Kaiman's best friend. The two are cleaning Hole of magic users to discover a way to restore Kaiman's head back to normal, because when a sorcerer dies, all of their magic is undone for whoever it's cast on. And as if that wasn't crazy enough, Kaiman has this entity living inside of him. So whenever the two, or three in this case, come across a magic user, Kaiman chops down on the magic user's head and lets the being see if he can identify if they are the one. Kaiman opens his mouth and asks what the man inside said, and after saying it's not them, Kaiman pulls out a knife and brutally murders them. After a day of trial and error, Kaiman and Nikaido go back to the former's restaurant and enjoy some finely cooked gyoza, ready to do it all again tomorrow. So the summary I just gave covers half of chapter 1, and I wanted to begin with a basic explanation of Kaiman and Nikaido before getting into the bigger picture. This series turns into a giant roller coaster of insanity with various causes and effects, so I want to lay a good base of the leading players in the beginning parts of the story. For example, let's talk about this guy. This dude currently being grappled is Fujita, a low-ranking sorcerer a part of the N family, the crime organization that is now top dog in the magic user world. Fujita may be a sorcerer, but he's the closest thing we have to a regular person. He has a tiny smoke output which leads to his low self-esteem, but he also has significant respect for the family and would do anything to help them out. In fact, from the start of chapter 1, his best friend and partner Matsumura is killed by Kaiman, and for most of the manga, Fujita is trying to bring him back. Fujita is a nice person, and in a world of murder and carnage, it's nice to have that character who grounds us in the setting. In a different story, Fujita could be the main character, rising his way up the organization's top, but this is Dorohedoro, and because of that, he has other people to share the spotlight with. Because Fujita can get away from Kaiman and Nikaido, he reports his findings to his boss, N. N is probably my favorite character in the series. I'll go into why and wax on my admiration later, but now I want to talk about who N sends to take care of Kaiman and Nikaido, his cleaners, Shin and Noi. Shin and Noi are some of the most powerful sorcerers in the N family, and I would argue display one of the most appealing factors of the series. They are ruthless and psychopathic killers who are also very endearing and charming. The bond they share together is one of best friends, and it's so lovely to see these two enjoy each other's company. They are the type of people who will find one of their coworkers being picked on, then brutally murder them, look up to their friend, calling the remains a bully sandwich. These two are so charming and yet horrifying as opponents. Shin's weapon of choice is a carpenter hammer, which by itself is a brutal way to kill someone, but where it gets scary is his magic. This guy is part sorcerer and part human, so it was difficult to get his magic to work correctly at first, which we will get into later talking about the fights. But when he did, he discovered he could dismember people while they are still alive. It's like the divided cow art piece that's split in different sections, but you're living through it and somehow your nerves still work. It reaches a point where if they're trying to extract information, Shin will dismember them, put them in a garbage bag, and then personally bring them to end to talk. That's absolutely brutal, isn't it? Well, you haven't heard what Noi can do. Hers is pretty straightforward. She's over 6 feet and 10 inches tall, meaning in physical prowess, she is wholly yoked and will physically overwhelm anyone, anytime. But that isn't highlighting her smoke, which is strong healing magic, allowing the restoration of limbs and anything besides death. So basically Noi is an unkillable juggernaut. These two don't mess around, and if anyone is going to fight them, oh boy, best of luck. For other characters, there's Ibisu, who is a great joke character who plays more plot significance than you would first expect, with some really good moments with Fujita. And now it's appropriate to talk about En. This dude is both terrifying and a hilarious dork. He's the type of guy who will make almost everything he owns into a mushroom theme based off his magic. He will demand mushrooms in all of his meals. He will write, direct, and star in a biography of himself for others to watch. And yet he's also the most powerful sorcerer in the magic user world, and produces a stupid amount of smoke, so much that his magic alone caused the equivalent of a natural disaster before the story begins. His magic involves mushrooms. This sounds hilarious and really dumb, but with the combination of the amount of smoke he creates and the creative uses, this magic is nightmare-inducing. En is super full of himself, as he should be. This man is on the top for a reason, and he is so ruthless that he will turn opponents into mushrooms and eat them for dinner because it's not really cannibalism if they aren't humans anymore. He's also someone who cares a great deal about all the members in his family. There are other characters I could go into, such as Dr. Kasakabe, a human around 60 studying sorcerers who has the appearance of a teenager from all the magical effects of his studies. Risu, a young man a part of a gang called the Cross Eyes, who is currently subdormant but really spooky smoke. Kikuragi, or Judas Ear, is an adorable cat whose ability is so stupid powerful it's actually pretty funny. And Shota, one of the higher-ups in the family similar to Shin and Noi, who has a desire to be partners with En. These and other characters are important to the manga that I'm purposely leaving out. I want this video to be a springboard, giving you a very general but cohesive view of this manga, so when you jump into it, it's not too overwhelming and you at least know a few things. Okay, so now that we've established our characters in Dorohedoro, let's go over the worlds they inhabit. One of the most impressive things about the world building of Dorohedoro is how the author Kyu Hayashida can flesh out enough to feel like a real and natural place. The whole is this huge, disheveled megacity that has this grimy look to it. Nothing is ever clean here, and you can't really blame anyone for that, due to the toxic waste and excess of smoke in the land. When it rains, toxic water comes down, which can cause magic users who visit to feel under the weather. The whole may look rough, but it causes communities to form. With the exception of the gangs and magic users visiting, the people in whole look out for each other. Meanwhile, the magic user world is this bright and clean place, but it's also very cutthroat, with people vying for power or an advantage. Sorcerers usually wear masks in public, and these can range from one similar to Fujita's, only meeting the dress code but doing nothing else besides that, or the really powerful ones like Shin and Noi's that are made personally from devils, both looking really cool, and they can allow magical abilities to be more potent. But Q goes the extra mile by giving these worlds holidays to fully embrace the culture they are a part of for our viewing pleasure and horror. For Whole, there's a single day of the year called the Day of the Living Dead. Due to the magic user smoke left over from the victims of magic user bodies, they rise from their graves with a desire for revenge. For any regular inhabitant, they simply lock their doors, and that's where it ends. But for those who volunteer and partake are dubbed as executioners, who at 11 o'clock will meet at the main cemetery and discuss with monks where they will be working tonight. When the clock strikes midnight, the dead rise, and the exterminators begin smiting the undead, followed by a monk throwing salt on a zombie afterward as a way to rest their troubled spirit. Depending on how many zombies you can kill, you can redeem your kills for some fun prizes. Meanwhile, we have the Blue Night Festival for the Magic User World, a 3-day event at N's Mansion that occurs once every 4 years. This event is focused on choosing and making a legal agreement for magic users to become partners. Where it gets pretty crazy is that anything goes. You could send applications to whoever you want in the N family in hopes of getting one of his elites to be teamed up with you. But let's say you send in an application and you don't get anything back. This is where the anything goes comes up. As long as you go to the meeting place and have one of the devils supervising the two of you writing the agreement, even if they aren't of right of mind to do it, you will be classified as their partner until the next Blue Moon Festival. Unless you die, in which case the contract is nulled. But the likelihood of your new partner killing you is very minimal, because once the contract is signed, unless you genuinely like them, the contract put into your body acts as a mind-altering magic that changes how you view the other person. Both Night of the Living Dead and the Blue Night Festival make these unique celebrations that are so easy to remember. Adding these special days into the world building really makes it stand out. Because when you see these holidays work and when other characters mention them, it makes you go, oh yeah, that thing, and it becomes so much more familiar. There are also gangs that add to the world and are important to the plot, one of these being the Cross Eyes, a group of sorcerers who either produce very minimal or no smoke, which would normally be the punching bag for powerful sorcerers, represented with red crosses over their eyes. But where their strength lies is in understanding the anatomy of sorcerers and exploiting it to their advantage in fights. They make money through the selling of black powder, a substance that gives a huge boost to someone's magical ability, making those with low magic or smoke output become supercharged, able to keep up with high-level magic users. As the series goes on, the Cross Eyes and their mysterious boss plays a significant role in the plot, but in the beginning, they're a gang that really adds to the believability of the world. I hope that gave a good picture of what the setting is like in Dorohedoro. Now let's move on to the fights. Fights in Dorohedoro are very crazy affairs, often incorporating many factors that make them very interesting, such as what kind of magic do they use, if any? Do they have black powder? Is this a tag team or one-on-one? And another point that adds an exciting layer to confrontations is what I mentioned a while ago. When a sorcerer is killed, all of their magical effects are cancelled. If a sorcerer dies in one area and then in another, it could change those affected by their magic, unintentionally affecting others besides the combatants. The fights are also pretty hardcore, expect a lot of blood and cringe-inducing wounds. There's also this layer of unpredictability in fights as well. It's especially so for sorcerers who don't produce a lot of smoke or don't seem like they have magic. Going back to an earlier point, Shin is part human and part sorcerer, but what makes a sorcerer physically different from a human is their ability to produce smoke. But because Shin is part human, his internal organs meshed with those of a sorcerer. Hence, it was more difficult to extract the veins that produce the smoke. So he decided to cut off his arms in an attempt to find his smoke veins. And he would have died if not for the help of Dr. Kasukabe and his assistant Vox. In fact, you may notice between his fingers that Shin has stitches that allows him to extract his smoke on opponents. But this point is mentioned because those who either don't have smoke or a low amount can be much more powerful under certain conditions, either through black smoke or under physical or mental conditions that manifest it. Now, I love this series a whole bunch, but it's about that time to get into some negatives of the series. So Dorohedoro is an absolutely glorious series, but before you get absorbed into this delightful chaos, it might be nice to go in with a heads up on a few things. Easily the most significant point I can think of is the threat of death. This is a series where death isn't as impactful as other stories. For the tale Dorohedoro is trying to tell, it makes sense to have this very flexible relationship with character deaths. But it's difficult to feel a sense of tension in fights, because as chaotic and as glorious as they are rendered by Q's fantastic artwork, 2 points really take away from this threat. That would be noise, smoke, and kakurugi. So we've already gone over noise, smoke of healing, but what makes this a bit of a tension flattener is that sorcerers can bottle their smoke and use it like a potion, and in Noi's case, she can produce a large amount of it. So a character can lose half their body, and if they can get noise smoke, they can come back up perfectly fine. That's a convenient resource, you may say. Well, it can't bring people back from the dead, right? To that, I say you are absolutely right. It can't. And this is where Kikuruge comes to absolutely destroy the tension. Kikuruge's special ability is to bring people back from the dead. Of course, it's entirely up to her if she will bring someone back, but the combination of Noi's magic to heal any mortal wounds and Kikuruge's revival ability really takes a lot of the tension that death has away. There are moments where a character will lose a limb, and rather than this mind-blowing thing that completely changes how the character fights or functions, it just makes me think, well, if they get a hold of noise smoke, they'll be fine. Granted, there are exceptions to this rule, and some characters either stay dead or have some fundamental reason why they can't. But I think it's important you know that death is not always the end of a character. Another point is that this is a very violent manga. Bloodshed and murder are what drive the story, and you need to know it has and always will. Q Hayashida has the skill of blending violence and comedy into the series, making both vital to the story, and you need to know if you want the comedy, you have to take it as well as the violence to get the most out of it. Those are really the hurdles I wanted to go over before talking about where you can start with this series if it still sounds like something you're interested in. Psych! So I was going to cover where to start, but I was contacted by the devils of Dorohedoro, and they threatened if I didn't make room in the video to talk about them, they would turn my channel into a re-upload of talk show clips with a red filter and asking for a like and subscribe, please, every 5 seconds. If magic users are above humans in the hierarchy, then devils are above magic users. A devil is stupid powerful and are highly respected to others. If an applicant is strong enough and can withstand the trials, a magic user can also become a devil. But being a devil changes someone more than just a physical and magical sense. In this setting, devils are known for, as the wiki accurately states, random violence, overly blunt speech, extreme euphoria, creativity, very carefree, and absolute indifference and disrespect to other individuals. Devils go by their own logic. If you're in a situation that requires methodical and critical thinking, you can reject that when it feels boring and record the screams of those in pain for your next song. The devils in Dorohedoro are super fun. They add a lot to the comedy of this world and give it an interesting sense of world building. This is a setting where all the crazy plot relevant stuff is going on. A devil can just throw poop onto someone because they thought it would be hilarious. And it is. But the devils are just another example that highlight the skill Q has with juggling tone. Her drawings can depict these creatures of infernal creation into some of the goofiest parts in the series. I think it really comes down to her willingness to draw these terrifying creatures doing the most absurd actions with complete sincerity. From walking in single file on a group field trip with pamphlets created for the occasion, to songwriting, then cutting into a conversation to share a verse of this masterpiece, to dancing just for the hell of it. These devils are so fun to experience. The devils are a great addition to this story and add a lot to the world building. With Dorohedoro, you have two options for starting the series, either the Netflix original anime that covers up to about chapter 40, or jump straight into the manga. The series has officially finished, ending after 167 chapters. I would argue that either option is a great choice, and you can't really go wrong. The anime decided to use 3D for its characters, and for the series, I think it was a really good choice considering how highly detailed the manga is. So if you like watching anime more than reading, the anime can be a great place to start. But I will say I'm a little biased to reading the manga, not only because I'm a fan of the goofy side stories at the end of every volume, which I feel adds more to the world building in a fun way, but it's also really cool to see the progression of Q's artwork as the series goes along. I adore her style, and constantly seeing it adapt is great to watch. Also, this is a bit off topic, but I just wanted to mention as kind of a fun fact for those who've been sticking with the channel for a bit, that my Bloodborne thumbnail has that drawing of the hunter. That was actually drawn by Q. She drew that for the cover of the Bloodborne comic The Death of Sleep. If you're looking for an option for which one to go with, I would say read the manga, but ultimately you can't go wrong with either option, and that's entirely up to you. So what have we learned in this Macho recommendation? Dorohedoro is a delightful fever dream. Q Hayashida's artwork is amazing. Macho is blackmailed by the devils of the series. Gyoza is a glorious meal. I hope you have a great time with the series if this interests you, but if not, thanks a whole bunch for watching anyway. Please feel free to rate this video whatever you think of it, and subscribe if you want to see more of my future work. My name here on YouTube is Pollymacho. Thanks for checking this video out. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Adios.